Feeds like crazy.
There we go. I think we have sound now. Yeah.
Yay.
I'm gonna
Good
mute
seeing you
myself.
guys.
Take care, Jerry.
Yeah, same.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. Can y'all hear me? Good deal. Welcome to today's meeting here at the Rotary Club of West Jacksonville. If you would please, those that are on Zoom, please mute yourself. And I'm going to ask Terry Vereen and then Doug Benefield to come up, please. Terry's going to lead us in the invocation and Doug's going to lead us in the pledge. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Doug. Michael, were you able to get that to go away? Okay. Got it. Although I like the theme, we love you, right? Great. Thanks so much. So welcome, everybody. Good to see y'all. Good to see you in person. Thanks for your patience last weekend, and thanks to our AV crew for making last weekend happen, and thanks to Carter for pinch hitting for a bunch of us. So thank you so much. I'm sorry we had some AV problems there, some sound problems there at the very end, but I don't know how all this happens magically in the AV world. So I'm appreciative, and I know nobody, but I'm appreciative that it does. So thanks. It's great to be back with y'all. A couple of pop-ups today. Lee Davis has one for us. Joe, do I need to? Can we just yell? No.
Okay, thank you very much, President Sean. So we have our first social of the new Rotary year, and we're going to gather at Riverside Restaurant and Liquors on Wednesday, August the 10th. And this year we'll be collecting school supplies for the Methodist Children's Village, and I have a short list on the tables, and Kevin Hurd is going to put it on our newsletter. So I hope everybody can come on the 10th.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, 5:30 to 7:30, and we'll have hors d'oeuvre trays, kind of like medium hors d'oeuvres. And people will buy their own beverages, but they'll supply water. Yes.
Great. Thank you, Lee. Lee mentioned that collecting the school supplies. You may have noticed in our Westward this week that school supplies are being collected for the Ukrainian children through the North Jacksonville Rotary Club as well. So if you brought any of those, just leave those with Patty at the front desk. And if you wanted to contribute money, you can just tell her that and she'll bill it to your account and send that money over there to them. So thank you for your support of both projects, because as you know, I don't know that there's anybody in here that hasn't had children, but if you haven't had children, you've had nieces or nephews or brothers or sisters, and you know what an expense it is to have children and put them in school. So thank you for your support of both of those projects. We're going to talk about committees later, but you'll notice on the tables there are sign-up sheets for committees. So please volunteer for those, and we are going to talk about that later, but those are on your table. Are there any other pop-ups today? No? Okay, great. Thank you. I did want to thank Kathy Cold for being our greeter today. Thank you, Kathy. And now I'd like to call on Carl Dawson to do our Family of Rotary report. I'm sorry. Matt Hevener, which I'd like to welcome back. It's great to see you, Matt.
Well, I'm here for my annual update on what it's like to be a geriatric father. Let's start with birthdays. I don't know if last week, if Jim French, his birthday on the 1st was recognized, or Lori DeJohnny's is today, and Bud Parrish is coming up on the 9th. And Jen Schumacher is coming up on the 10th. So we could give everybody a round of applause for getting older. We have some interesting information. We have Doug Benefield. He's now city councilman for Orange Park. Is that correct? So yes, the town of Orange Park. And so for anybody that wants to complain about that, we know where to send them. One sad piece of news is Joe Eberly, his golden retriever Zoe, passed away. And so if you guys can be praying for them. I have a 17-year-old blind, deaf, incontinent, very incontinent Jack Russell Terrier named Torpedo, and it is very fitting. And so if you guys can pray that he will die, I would greatly appreciate it. In all sincerity, when that dog stands up, everybody starts running, trying to get him outside. So so I had thought about all of the different things that I could talk about with my son. Some of you may be wondering why I've been gone. And since people tend to thoroughly enjoy anything that involves me being in pain or having financial loss or anything like that, I figured I would bring you all up to speed. In February of this year, I was walking through my backyard, chasing the blind incontinent dog before he fell in our backyard. We have a little koi pond, and he was headed straight for it. And I stepped down, and an armadillo had decided to create a condominium complex under my backyard. And so my leg went down about 2 feet, and I ruptured 2 discs in my back. And it just kept getting. And so here's what I figured out. First, it affected my golf game. You know, you think that it's like, all right, that hurts, but it should, if I just really quickly go like this, that'll help it. And that didn't help at all. And it got to the point where you couldn't even drive without, you know, I finally conscripted the 3-year-old to start taking me to work. But had a surgery in June. And if you're scared of surgeries and you have back issues, I would highly encourage them. It's given me a new lease on life. And I needed that because I have to pay all the bills of having a 3-year-old at my age. But no, in all sincerity, I know that you guys had sent well wishes. Sean, I appreciated the card, and hopefully got the thank you note back. So, but I'm glad to be back.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, Matt, you have to give my notes back. I'm good, but I'm not that good. Thank you. Thank you, Matt, for that report. So Sergeant at Arm Carter is going to come up and introduce our guests and visiting Rotarians and give us a little Rotary history, right?
Thank you, President.
Thanks, Carter.
And thank you, Matthew. If that doesn't make you laugh, I don't know what will. So I'd like to start out with last week. We started down the path of learning a little bit more about who Paul Harris is. I gave a brief overview. And with that, we're going to now do a little bit of a deeper dive into explain, how his life came about, the situations, and a little bit more about his character and him growing up. And it started with, at the age of 3, he moved from Racine, Wisconsin to Vermont with his dad. And so I want to read a passage from a book, and anybody can look this up if you feel the need to, but it's Paul Harris and the Birth of Rotary. And this section comes from the first chapter. And to give it a little preface, because it's a very large book, in this chapter, we learned that unfortunately for Paul, his father, George, was a terrible businessman. He had been given many chances by his father, lots of financial aid. And for whatever reason, in multiple business ventures that he did, they all failed. So at this point, he has to move his 2 sons, and he's leaving his daughter and his wife back in Racine, Wisconsin with some family, and he's moving back to Vermont where his dad and mom is. So let me read just a little section of this. After losing his livelihood from the partnership, George tried his hand at a variety of jobs, from clerking in other establishments to selling insurance. At the same time, Cornelia, his bride of 7 years, gave private music lessons, generating some extra income. But none of these measures permanently dug them out of the financial hole they were in. With bill collectors pounding at the door and the Bryant family annoyed at George's inability to provide for his family, pressures continued to increase. Finally, the situation reached a point where George had no alternatives left. The live-in maids, Josephine and her daughter, Fanny, from Bohemia, were released to find other employment. George then reluctantly agreed to return east in hopes of finding better employment opportunities, even if it meant living under the roof and accepting assistance provided by his critical but often generous and forgiving father. All these thoughts raced through his head as he watched the activity of the dockhands preparing to board travelers for the Milwaukee to Buffalo, New York run. The neatly dressed group had started their trip from Racine by train only a few hours before, and already the 2 youngsters were starting to miss their mother. After much discussion, it was determined she should remain in Racine with their newest daughter, Nina May, who was born in May 1870. Even though the baby was over a year old, she was still considered too young to make the trip safely. George agreed it was better for Cornelia and Nina May to stay behind, living with her brother Charles and widowed sister Susan at the Bryan rooming house, where both Cecil and his oldest son, and Paul, had been. So we'll continue our updates on Paul Harris, but that just gives you a little bit of an understanding of why Paul Harris at the age of 3 had to move from Wisconsin to Vermont. I'd now like to introduce some guests we have today. We do have a couple guests. We are happy to see returning guest Jennifer Mack return, soon to be member. Thank you, Jennifer. And Ike Sherlock has a guest.
My guest today is Elaine Course. Elaine's an executive recruiter from Stephen Douglas, and it's her first Rotary meeting.
That concludes my Sergeant at Arms report.
Great, thank you, Carter. I thought Joe was trying to send me a signal. Sorry, guys. Okay. Great, thank you so much. So program said that I'm going to give you the plan for the year. That's kind of scary, isn't it? This should be really scary. I'm standing up here with no timetable. Sorry, hang on one second. So what I would tell you is, as I was trying to put together some thoughts to share with you today, the 4-way test would compel me to tell you, under the is it the truth, that I came up with more questions than I did answers. So I want to share some stuff with you today, and then honestly tell you that I still have more questions than I do answers. So, and I think when you talk to the board, they would tell you the same thing. So The other thing I would need to share under Is It the Truth is that I have theme pins for you. And for the second week in a row, I've forgotten to bring them. They're on the counter and I walked out without them. So if you ever feel bad about something you've forgotten to do, you can just think about me and I forgot it 2 weeks in a row. So I shared with you, or Kevin shared with you through our Westward, the club satisfaction survey results from the survey that the district did. And I don't know how many of you had a chance to look through those, but I would tell you that in my opinion, I thought that we came out pretty well in that survey. There were, and I'm comparing that to the district averages that were reflected on the survey. There were very, very few things in which our club members rated us lower than the district averages. I found 2 that were notable and then 1 that was just kind of, a little bit off. The 2 that were notable, I thought, were our ability to raise funds and the effectiveness of our club's charitable giving. And I could argue that both of those were impacted by COVID. I could argue that they were heavily impacted by COVID. Now you could argue that everybody's clubs were impacted by COVID, and that would be accurate. But in my little mind, which is little, I could argue that that was impacted by COVID. But I thought it was really a real testament to our club that we came out above average, above the district average on all the other criteria. And I think that's a testament to our club members, to our prior club leadership. And I think that we should be very proud of that. I think each of you should be very proud of that. So when I made my remarks on President's Night, I said what I want us to do is build on the success that we've had in the past. And I think that club survey shows that that's all we need to do, is continue to build on that success. And I would point out that I made those remarks before I saw that survey. I thought there were a couple of other things that were interesting. I thought it was interesting that quite a few people who took the survey noted a change in focus since they joined our club. Their primary reason for joining when they joined was to network, and that had changed over time to fellowship and the ability to give back to the community. So I thought that was really interesting, and I thought that spoke well for our club. I also thought it was really interesting, and I want to tell you that I read every single comment in the most enjoyable and least enjoyable parts of that report. I know that you can't please all the people all the time. You can't even please most of the people all the time, but there were some recurring themes. Some of the things mentioned in the most enjoyable that were mentioned quite often were the fellowship, the programs and the speakers, the service opportunities, and the socials. Well, is that not what we're here for? So I think we're on the right track. Least enjoyable, and I'm paraphrasing here because I had to kind of lump it into categories. Lack of strategy for membership growth and retention, lack of fundraising and service projects, and then I won't want to say this real loud, but the quality of the lunch. So that was noted several times. And I would argue that every single club in the universe mentions the food in their survey. I can't imagine there are very few that don't. So I thought all that was interesting. So back in May, the incoming board met to talk about where we wanted to go this year, what we thought we needed to address, just kind of, blue skying and talking about planning for the year. And that was prior to seeing the survey results. And when we talked about things, we acknowledged that when the survey results came out, we wanted to be sure we incorporated those survey results into our plans as we went through the year. So I want to share with you some of the things that we discussed during that meeting. We want to have a focus on membership growth, but also membership retention. To me, it's the chicken and the egg thing. You can't have one without the other, or it's pointless to do one, growth, without focusing on retention as well. When we talk about growth, I think everybody would agree there's no point in just growing and just bringing in new members without it being, I hate to keep using the word strategic, but strategic in nature. We don't want to just bring in numbers. We want to bring in folks that are going to be great members in our club, that are going to contribute to our club in every way possible, not just financially, but by their presence, by their energy, by the oomph that they bring to our club. And we've talked about ways to do that. Now, one of the comments that was in the survey was there were a couple of people that didn't really want to hear about diversity. And I get that. I know that sometimes that term can be overused, but I do want us to, and I think the board agrees with me, we want to diversify our membership, not just using that as a term, but in terms of not just gender and age, but in terms of everything: gender, age, race, religion, occupation, because all of those things make for a more interesting mix of people and make it a more lively group and a more productive group when we go to do things, when we go to do projects, when we go to look for resources. I received an email yesterday from the North Jacksonville Club, and the CHO, Community Health Outreach, desperately needs a mechanic that can work on diesel engines. Well, I would be clueless as to where I find a mechanic that works on diesel engines, but a real diversified club might have a member that has somebody on their staff or knows somebody that could work on diesel engines. So the more diversified that our club membership is, the better able we are to respond to the needs within our community. So looking to diversify in every way that you can diversify things. And I think being strategic in that, not just saying we need members, because we don't need members, but we want more members who will bring more to us in terms of their time, talent, and their resources and their knowledge. On the other hand, we need to find a way to stay engaged with our current members. When we have members that, I call it going MIA, but members that have to leave us for a little while, or maybe they don't even know they have to leave us, but they're gone for a little while, they miss a few meetings. We need to make sure we stay in touch with them and find out why they're gone. That may be the very time they need us the most, and we need to make sure we know why. And we do a lot of that with the family of Rotary led by Palmer Bell, and we do a great job with that. But what else can we do to help? And we're going to have more discussions about that. Do we have members that maybe can't drive to our meetings anymore, or maybe shouldn't try to drive to our meetings anymore? Can we do something to help with that? Or maybe we have members that are fine driving during the day, but maybe they shouldn't be driving at night to our socials. What can we do to help with that? So things like that, that just kind of further the concept of the family of Rotary, but also make it easier for our members to stay engaged in what we're doing. And then is there a way, Dane had mentioned this before, is there a way to help our new members get engaged more quickly and get further engaged with our club? And is there a way we could do that? So membership will be big. It always is. It always is. I'm not saying it's not, and I'm not saying we haven't made it big in the past, but that will be a focus. In terms of membership engagement, things like service projects and fundraising projects can be a huge way to get our members more engaged in our club. There's nothing like having a project going on and having people working together to get that engagement going and get folks to know each other. Maybe I'm working with Ed when we used to go down to was it Sulzbacher or? Right, and work in the kitchen. There's something about having your hands in those potatoes together with your apron. And let me tell you, there's something about having your hair in a hairnet on Saturday morning that brings you closer, you know, like, don't you ever tell anybody what I look like in a hairnet on Saturday morning. But anyway, brings people closer together and just kind of, it just increases the engagement. So, you know, having everybody have an opportunity to have what I call mic time, whether it's doing the invocation or the pledge or the four-way test or introducing the speaker. If we don't know everybody's name, that's one sure way to at least put a name with a face, and it just helps to have that opportunity. So I rattle, sorry. So in terms of fundraising, I mentioned fundraising. I know Director Larry Daly's been looking at some concepts, and we really need some of you that have been in the club for a while, that have participated in successful fundraising projects. Larry needs your input. Larry needs your ideas. Larry needs your help and your guidance and your energy on that, because he has a lot of ideas, but you know, what's worked in the past. So maybe some of you past presidents that have had good luck with that could help him with that. So, you know, they're just getting not more involved, because that makes it sound like we haven't been involved, and that's not the case at all. But just now that we're coming out of COVID, I know it's not over, but we found a way to manage it, and we hope we stay in that boat. But the opportunities for doing more of these things should present themselves and should give us more opportunities to be engaged. Let's talk about meetings. We have this beautiful facility sitting on this beautiful river. It doesn't get a whole lot better than that, does it? We're very blessed to be able to do that. I talked with a lot of clubs at PETS at the president's training, which is PETS, back in March. It was very interesting hearing what the other clubs are doing. I would say we're in the minority of clubs that still meets 3 or 4 times a month. Most of them are meeting 2 to 3 times a month. I don't know if most of it is driven by finances. It's just gotten so expensive to meet every week, or if it's a shift in how people feel about having regular meetings. I don't know what's driven that, but a lot of them are only meeting twice a month, some 3 times a month. And then they're doing a social the 3rd or 4th time, or they're doing some are meeting twice a month, having a social once, and having a service project once a month. So that's their 4 times a month. I'm not suggesting that's what we would do, but just sharing with you that things are changing a little bit in the Rotary landscape. Our board discussed it. We decided to stick with what we have done this last year or so, where we have 3, maybe 4 meetings in a month, and then have several socials throughout the year. So as Lee shared with you, we're going to have a social next week instead of meeting next week. So we'll just kind of continue the way we have. That seems to have been successful. I think people have enjoyed having the opportunities to social, and you know, getting to, like when we're at Riverside Liquors, is that the right name? You're able to move around a little more than we are here during the meetings, so and visit with folks. But I thought I'd share with you what some of the other clubs are doing. I talked to one club that if there's a 5th meeting day in the month, everyone is expected to go make up at a different club. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting, because then you get out and see how other clubs do things. And I think that AG Ike now, past President Ike is now an assistant governor. AG Ike has been visiting other clubs. And I think when you visit other clubs, you find out that they're all very, very different, right, Ike? Yeah, and I think PDG Ken could speak to that also. They're all unique, very unique. Every club is unique, very different in how they do things. So that's interesting as well. So we're going to stick with what we've been doing though for this last year and a half or so. We did discuss the fact that we've been offering the hybrid meetings, and some of the clubs are no longer doing that, but our board felt like it was important to continue to do that. So we are. We felt it was important to continue to offer the remote option for those members that could not be with us for whatever reason, whether they can't get here because of work, they have a health issue or whatever, for whatever reason. We felt it was important to keep the remote option so that they could continue to be engaged with our club and participate in our club. And we just felt like that was the right thing to do. So we're going to continue with that, and we appreciate the AV crew making that happen. Programs. I feel so weird being up here just talking. Y'all just sitting there looking. Everybody still awake? Okay. I should have brought candy that I could throw out there to you or something. Sorry, I'll think of that next time. With the pens. I'll try to remember the pens next time. Programs. There were some comments about the programs in that survey. So we're going to continue to look for programs that are interesting and relevant, speakers that we think will connect with y'all. But we welcome your feedback on those. Everything that anybody has mentioned to me in the past or to Dane, we make a note of that and we look for a way to work that in. We have not worked them all in because we had so many. There was at least one that we asked the person that suggested it to wait about 6 or 8 months because we'd had a speaker from that area not too much before they had suggested it. So we didn't want to do a repeat. So we do listen to the feedback. I went through and looked at last year's speakers, and I was actually kind of surprised. The spread was pretty even. We had 3, the way I counted them now, so everybody might count them a little bit differently, but the way I counted them, we had 3 nonprofit speakers, 4 from education, 2 higher ed, 2 K through 12, 4 Rotary information, 3 that I considered city, state type speakers, 5 business, local business, 5 sports related, loosely sports related, 4 local interest, 2 military, and 7 others. So I thought that was a pretty even distribution. Now, obviously I would think that because I did it, but I didn't. It was a team effort. I'm telling you, it was a team effort. It wasn't just me. But so is that the right distribution, or is that just luck? I would tell you it was luck. But is that the right distribution, or is there a different distribution? Now, one of the comments was, I'm really not interested in sports. Okay, got it. But a lot of people are. Okay, I'm not interested in nonprofits, but a lot of people are. And one of our things is service. So again, you can't make everybody happy, but so if you have thoughts on that, be sure to share them with us so that we can factor that into the decisions that are made about programs this year. The city-state thing, I think it would be helpful to have more speakers about our local, not political things, but about how our city is operating and how our state operates and so forth. So just food for thought on that. One interesting, it's been a long time since I was president of a club, like probably longer than I admit to being old. And one thing I found out at PETS, the president's training, was that Rotary recommends you have a club assembly, which this is, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, but is that me? Okay. Club assembly pretty often. So some clubs are having them once a month. And I went, okay, I don't think so. And then some clubs are having them once a quarter. And I thought, I don't know. So the board talked about that too. And we decided, that's a little often. So we might do one more this year unless we have a big project that we need to have a working day to discuss. But we're probably not going to do that quite so often. What I'm more accustomed to in a club assembly is that we break up into our committees and sit around the tables and talk about what we're doing and work on our project. So we might do one more of those and do that this year. But but just sharing what some of the other clubs are doing. And also I found that most of the clubs are doing more Rotary information programs than we've been doing. And so I can see an argument in favor for that, because as we bring in new members, they don't have as much Rotary knowledge as some of our more mature members have. So I can see an argument for that, but then you kind of, where do you draw the line on that? So we'll welcome your feedback on that as well. In terms of focusing, we will also, switching gears, we'll also be focusing, as you would expect me to say, on the Rotary Foundation. I don't know that you've ever heard a governor or past president say not mention the Rotary Foundation, but we will be focusing on the foundation, and Joe Springer, Director Joe, will be helping us with that. We do have some recognition points available, and he's going to look to help us spend those wisely, maybe do some kind of a campaign there. Of course, we'll encourage giving to the permanent and planned giving funds, and of course, supporting Polio Plus, but there'll be more information about that as time goes on. And the subject that I could speak for, I don't know, another hour on, which, how much time do I have left? 6 minutes, okay. Youth. When I was governor, district governor, I talked about youth for about 10 minutes of the time I was given it everywhere. Youth are our future. I feel sure that you all get that. If the youth are our future. And so, and there's 3 reasons why I think that we focus on that. 1, it's the right thing to do. 2, who do we want them learning from? People that follow things like this, or the gangbangers on the street corner? Really, who do we want them to learn from? Drug dealers and folks like that, or folks that believe in the 4-way test? And 3rd, I'm from a sports world. It's all about recruiting. And that's our feeder system. You know, that's our recruiting tool. That's our farm team. Those are the people that we want sitting in here 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. Those are the people we want leading our city government, our state government. Those are the people we want sitting in Washington. That's the type of people we want. And we want to train them so that they're good when they get there. So those are the people we want leading our industries in our companies. So I'll stop talking, but Gigi's going to lead us in that. And I know I've missed a lot of people, but one thing that we worked on this past year was social media, and my daughter Ashley and I tried to handle it, and we tried, we really did. But Kevin Hurd and his committee is going to work on that this year, and I really appreciate that. So because we need to be out there and have the things that we're doing visible so that people see it and want to be a part of it. And then so that when they are a part of it, the people that they know they're a part of it and get excited about it. So Kevin, thank you for handling that for us too. That's been a real worry of mine. So I'm out of time, right? So I'm going to close with this. This is from Muhammad Ali. Service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth. Service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth. Pretty appropriate, I'd argue. So I'm just the talking figurehead up here. This is your club, our club, my club. I'm so excited to be working with you this year. I appreciate the opportunity to be the talking head up here. I'll try not to talk too much more this year. I look forward to working with you. I encourage you to go forward in this Rotary year and continue to build on the solid foundation and all the successes that this club has had in the past, and to put service above self as we imagine a better world through Rotary and use our theme of Imagine Rotary. So I'm going to stop talking now. I'm going to ask Jay Hinderlight, I believe. Jay, aren't you going to lead us in the 4-way test? Jay, are you still here? Yeah. And I'm going to say again, great to see Matt Heavener back with us. Thank you, Jennifer, for being here. Thank you, Elaine, for being here. And thank you all for being here. Thanks for listening to me talk. And take it away, Jay. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you, Jay. Y'all have a great week.
Good job.